Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar with John Hammond with Just Hacking Training. My name is Rashida Clements, and I'm the Business Development Manager here at Women in Cybersecurity. Before we get started with today's presentation, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the WESIS organization. WESIS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. We often go by our acronym WESIS, as in We Sis, because that's exactly what we are, a global cyber sisterhood. Our community is made up of over 11,000 members in 107 countries. We have 69 professional affiliates and 356 student chapters around the world. We offer a range of initiatives and skills development programs for all career levels. We are currently accepting applications for the WESIS Google Cybersecurity Cohort Program through May 11th. To learn more about WESIS programming efforts, you can visit our website, wesis.org. We want to take a moment to thank all of our strategic partners who fund us year-round. Our Tier 1 partners are Akamai, Amazon, Bloomberg, Cisco, Ford Motor Company, Google, Lockheed Martin, Palo Alto Networks, and SentinelOne. Feel free to ask questions throughout today's webinar. Please type them in the question box below, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Lastly, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the WESIS newsletter for information on upcoming events and programs. You can find it at wesis.org in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And with that, I'll turn it over to John.
All righty. Well, goodness gracious. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be part of the party here. Well, I'll get the show started with a quick screen share, if that's okay. We'll pull up some of the slides and we'll go off on our adventure. We're doing a little tour of the dark web. And look, let me say, I know that this is weird, right? The dark web normally has this mystique to it, this sort of, I don't know, amorphous, blurry, what the heck is that? You know, Hollywood media movies just make it out to be this weird, opaque thing. And it is a little shady, right? You do see a lot of illegal, illicit, and illegitimate stuff that's out there. So I add that asterisk, I just add that little disclaimer because sometimes we get squeamish, right? You're going to see things that might be strange or odd, and you kind of have to have a certain fortitude and stomach for it. But I think we're going to have some fun, hopefully demystifying the dark web, and we'll dive in. Let me go ahead and cruise through, the obligatory, the who am I slide, the introduction slide, the credibility slide. Hey, hi, hello. My name is John Hammond. I'm a senior principal security researcher at Huntress for my day job. And a lot of folks might kind of know, I don't know, other stuff that I've been up to out online on the internet. A whole lot of videos and education and content, and I hope walkthroughs and guides and good information, hopefully bringing you value over on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or the social media sphere. And I'm super duper grateful that you all have been willing to let me be here with you all and kind of wear my Just Hacking training hat. That's been an extra side quest. That's been an extra venture because YouTube has been extremely fulfilling, super meaningful work in my life. And we got to thinking, hey, how can we make this bigger? How can we make this better? How can we scale this thing to get more education, awareness, and value out to more people with more people part of the party, other incredible industry titans, other real champions and all-stars across our field in cybersecurity. But I know that's kind of all over the place. I'm over at Huntress for the day job, and I like to think, okay, I hope I'm practitioner first and big air quotes influencer second, but you know me, I'm kind of a nerd and a geek, and I want to be digging into, hey, what does this stuff really look like? Whether it's chasing hackers, whether it's cutting up malware, I like to get a little bit techie, but I know we're not always, everyone does. So we're going to be a little high level, but still show you some real raw stuff if you're up for it. if you're willing to go along on the adventure here with me. So let's get to it. The dark web, truth be told, is still just the internet. Like it's still the same internet that you're accessing whenever you fire up your web browser, you try to type in google.com or whatever the case may be. In all reality, um, all those other sites that you could access on the dark web are still servers and computers that host that website and web page, but accessed in a different way. Rather than going to some like .com or .net or whatever top level domain you might think of, a lot of times you go to websites that are like a .onion. And I know that sounds weird, but folks have probably heard of, or you might have seen at least the word Tor, or really an acronym, the Onion Router. And that's kind of a clever way to access or see these dark web websites or Tor hidden services because they call it the Onion Router, where your traffic, your computer network communications, when you send a request to a website, normally you're sending packets. But what they do in this Onion Router is kind of clever. They wrap and bundle up your packet so that there are extra layers, like an onion. So that way, one server that you're communicating to actually just peels off the first layer of that onion and says, oh, I know this needs to go to this server next. And they go and do the same thing. They unwrap and go find where the next destination is and the next destination. And they do this sort of hop to eventually get you to your true destination. That's the Onion Router and a lot of the Onion routing capabilities to access onion.onion websites. Really cool part of that is that, hey, you get to have anonymity. You get to have a little bit of privacy. You get to, hey, not tell every single server that you're connecting to where you're actually trying to go. That is why, honestly, hey, Tor and the Onion Router has some really good purposes. It's well intended. It's genuine and legitimate for use of private browsing, of anonymity, and some like operational security for anyone accessing the internet. I don't want to say think of it as like a VPN or a virtual private network because it's not quite that, but maybe a certain aspect of, okay, you're masking your network traffic to one and then the next and then the next and then the next until you eventually reach where you're trying to go. Say google.com or facebook.com, but like a .onion representation, different top level domain. Thinking we're okay on that side? So Tor is realistically how you could go access it. And the Tor browser is freely available online. Like anyone could go download it, anyone could go use it. You can go use it and poke and play around the dark web. But let me add that asterisk. Hey, the dark web is still just the same internet that we're used to, but maybe, sure, in a little bit of a different light, no pun intended, but it's the corners and crevices and the nooks and crannies where anonymity and privacy is super duper important. With that said, that's obviously where a lot of shady and illicit illegal activity could very well happen because they're trying to hide and tuck away under the radar. We'll talk more about that, but think like cyber criminals. Think ransomware operators. Think info stealer malware actors, threat actors, or adversaries or brokers that try to sell data breaches like leaked passwords and leaked credentials, or just straight up access to companies and businesses that they're just kind of handing out. It's a marketplace. It's an enterprise. It's a whole industry of the underground cybercrime environment. But I've been drilling down into that idea of, accessing facebook.com or google.com. You probably know, how to get to those websites because you know the name. You just type it in and you go to that domain or that online address in your address bar. The thing about Tor and the Onion Router and all this dark web stuff is that the .onion domain, .onion top level domain isn't going to be using a simple name like Google. They're actually going to be using this really long, seemingly random string of numbers and letters and that amalgamation you can kind of see on the screen. And they've grown and they've expanded that between what they had once version 2 or version 3, so that again, these really demand and mandate, hey, this is some security aspect in its own right. This is operational security, this is privacy, because you can't just go to whatever facebook.com equivalent when you need to know the big long random string of numbers and letters all the way up to however many characters dot onion. You kind of need to know where you want to go in order to get there. There are some websites like a search engine or maybe sort of indexing a lot of those .onion domains, and that's how you could kind of collect and explore, go see where you might be able to navigate to. But honestly, some understanding of the dark web comes from finding and building up your own repertoire, archive, and catalog of these weird, wacky onion addresses and domains, just like this. But how exactly do bad actors, that is our focus, right? I'm a nerd and a geek. I'm a security researcher over for the day job, and I'm on the adversary tactics team trying to wonder, what are cyber criminals up to? Well, oftentimes they want to host a lot of infrastructure, computers and services out on the internet to do their dirty work. And if they're hiding it and tucking it behind a lot of these onion addresses, or if they're exchanging like cryptocurrency to be able to purchase and buy servers and cloud infrastructure, how do they host that still in a safe, air quote, safe or secure in their eyes for their illegal illicit activities? Well, it's wild. You can see a whole kind of culture there. You can see a whole kind of, again, marketplace of, maybe think of weird, silly marquees or big, flashy animated lights to try to get your attention of all the crazy stuff that's out there, whether it's carding credit cards or trying to steal or swipe PayPal accounts, or you can see some stuff for illicit substances or arms and weapons or whatever the case may be. Uh, we don't need to focus on that, right? Hey, we're looking at this in that cybersecurity lens, but it's obvious that's out there. We're not going to shy away from the fact that that is out there. So again, if you're exploring the dark world over of the dark web, keep that in your mind. But Torch, this one that I have the screenshot up here, has these wild, silly advertisements for, other different sites or places and locations to buy or sell or do specific things there. But Torch is one of those Google-like sort of search engines or index sites that crawls and collects a handful of those different websites or Tor hidden services and onion routers. There are a whole lot of these. There's Amia, there's Haystack, there's Excavator, tons of weird, wild names, but these exist. You can think of sort of a search engine for the dark web, but they have to go find that stuff manually. And then part of the enterprise, part of the flywheel in industry, folks who sort of buy and sell how and where they now have their own advertising for stuff that they're trying to sell. But I was teeing up that idea of, okay, how do threat actors or cyber criminals realistically host their infrastructure in a way that, hey, someone might turn a blind eye to what happens on that infrastructure, on that site for, I don't know, malware, for cybercrime, for illegal and illicit activities. How do you put that together? So there's a concept, right? Maybe nerds and geeks are familiar with like DigitalOcean or AWS or cloud hosting providers. It's weird. There's a whole sort of mirror to that in the dark website where they call bulletproof hosting providers. And that means what they provide, what they offer for compute or servers or websites that they could stand up are things that won't really listen to takedown requests, or they won't, I don't know, behave or cooperate with any things of what's going on that site or that server, because they're putting their head in the sand. They're just saying, look, we give you this compute, you do with it what you will, whatever illegal illicit activities that might be. And there are a good many of these bulletproof hosting providers that might take a certain kind of cryptocurrency, that might take some anonymous private payment so that they could give you this infrastructure. Or they give a threat actor or adversary this infrastructure. Anonymous offshore hosting, we can see from WebCare 360, maybe crazy RDP, some other things to, again, just have access, spin up a Linux box, spin up a Windows box, maybe have some email capabilities. Again, with all that trying to be OPSEC, privacy anonymity oriented. And you might be able to see it if you're no KYC, like no process to know your customer. There's no due diligence or background check as to who the individual buying or purchasing the software or hardware or infrastructure really is. They just say, hey, we'll take your money. Here's the thing. You guys do what you got to do. And a little weird, a little squeamish, right? No questions asked. I like that as a tagline there for a lot of the branding of these websites. And there are a good many of these. Some kind of touting, hey, we take cryptocurrency. Hey, we take Bitcoin. We take Monero. Again, sort of an anonymous getaway car for cyber criminals that really need to do damage. That's what they do. Now, that's just one aspect, right? Okay, say that's serving or hosting the web server, the infrastructure, the computer itself. But then what do you put on it? Whether it's, okay, cybercrime infrastructure, command and control, remote access Trojan stuff for malware infestations, or maybe threat actors need a place to hang out. Maybe they just chat. Maybe they just talk. Maybe they scheme up their next ploy, or they buy and sell and share in a sort of forum, like a bulletin board. Now, I know those differ from traditional marketplaces, like, oh, a store you could go buy and find, yeah, whatever, drug, guns, whatever, cybercrime tooling, et cetera, et cetera. But forums tend to get a little bit of the limelight because that is where those bad actors start chit-chatting. And they're chirping. They're talking about what they're up to, or they're selling some recent data breach, or they're claiming and putting a flag in the sand to kind of tout and bump their chest that they breached or hacked some sort of company. There are a lot of these. And honestly, there is a real rise and fall of communities like this. Some folks might be familiar with XSS. Some folks might know exploit.in. A real big one is breach forums. That has certainly seen its time up and down because realistically, law enforcement is kind of keen and kind of curious. What are they all up to over there? Can we use that as a source for threat intelligence? And do we get to a point where we can start to take some of those down? Can we disrupt or actually hinder those operations? Here are a couple of the banners. You might be able to see XSS at the very top, and these are kind of in rows to see them one line by line. Exploit.in, crack.io, breach forums, and many others. CryptBB is an interesting one. I think I got a lot of those folks mad at me at one point. They started to call me really bad names on the internet and, they make it personal, right? Cyber criminals and threat actors will do what they want to do in some weird, belligerent sort of, I don't want to say high school drama, but realistically, that's it. Screaming and shouting about, hey, anything else going out on the internet with some profanity, with some vulgarity, with what you'd expect from cyber criminals. No secret to that. And it's probably pretty clear. You can see a lot of these are Russian language, but some of these actually do get taken down. This is a takedown seizure banner. And these are one of the things that you might see when a website or dark web research spot is now taken offline because law enforcement was able to step in. They were able to seize the infrastructure and they shut that thing down. This one specifically was Genesis Market. That one has some old, that's some years past, but they would buy and sell different cookies. And I don't mean literal cookies as food, but I mean, hey, your sessions while you're connecting or logging into different websites. Again, think Google, think Amazon, think, I don't know, any other website you might access, whether that's Microsoft Teams online, whether that's Microsoft 365, whether that's Dropbox. They would collect and fingerprint what you navigated to and your cookies and your sessions after you logged in. Because whenever you access a website, you're wearing a little name tag. When you log in with your username and password, you're telling the server, "Hi, my name is," so they know who you are. Genesis Market would collect, buy, and sell toolings and bots to be able to track those down and let anyone else get in the middle of that, impersonate you, or steal your account. Cool little law enforcement slogan here, though. Operation Cookie Monster was to take down Genesis Market. And this happens time and time again. It's an interesting thing, though, when you take down or do get to disrupt some adversary activity or some of their infrastructure, because in all honesty, you're kind of cutting the head off a Hydra. One just kind of grows back. Or I don't know, it's a cockroach, right? Hey, maybe you kill one, but there's so many more, and they could very well just rebrand or pick up and start again, unless some of the operators end up being arrested. Um, but that's the real fight. That's the fight against cybercrime. That's what we're all up to in certain ways, in different ways. But we all, I don't know, have a certain kind of cheer when, hey, kind of a rallying cry when we get to see these takedown banners and things that look like this. And you might run into a good many of those, especially the rise and fall and up and down waves of cybercrime forums and everything else on the dark web. But let me show you what those things look like. Say we were to go log in and explore one of those cybercrime forums on the dark web. Well, normally they try to throw you into a queue. They had some little bot waiting process or a CAPTCHA to validate that you're a real human being, some sort of turnstile. Eventually they let you in. And here's one example. This is xss.is. And a good many of these, exploit.in and others, the ones that have grown and are kind of very well known and notorious for this sort of stuff, they're pay to play. You might not always be able to just have an open, freely available login and registration process to sign up for some sites like these. Some of them, you got to fork over a little bit of Bitcoin. You got to pay for your entryway or have someone else in the community really vouch for you. Say, hey, I know this threat actor. Yeah, he's a buddy of mine. Let him in. And they go through the bouncer of, the bar and the club for this cybercrime forum like this. Kind of wild. But let me show you what some of this looks like. I have a couple videos here if you're okay with it. And again, this is when we start to add that asterisk and disclaimer. I know this gets weird. I know this gets a little bit squeamish. And this is in the Russian cybercrime forum, Russian language. So you might see some of that intermixed with some English because this is kind of funneled in and out through Translate. But take a look at some of the stuff that you see. This is like selling access or buying different cards or maybe some information on tools that they might use to break into cPanel or other inline and online information. Maybe people looking for, hey, can I hire a hacker? Can I have someone help on this job kind of thing? And some of it, you got to work with a grain of salt. Some of it's real, some of it's not. I think when we're exploring and experimenting all the stuff that's out and about for dark websites like this, you got to be a skeptic. You can never tell if anything is real. Sometimes it is a scam. There is no honor amongst thieves, right? You're looking at what cyber criminals are up to, and more often than not, okay, maybe it's a lure, a fake site just to dupe an end victim, or it's a honeypot, right? People say that all the time. Oh, maybe that turned into a honeypot for law enforcement. Who knows? I got to be honest, I don't always know. And I think real or not, it's still kind of eye-opening and pretty wild to see how much of this stuff is out there and just what it looks like, for one thing. Here are some other of those forums, exploit.in. We're taking a look at another one. They have whole sections. They have whole threads or categories for malware, for war driving, for social engineering, for cryptography, or things where they buy and sell access, VPN, servers, infrastructure, accounts, finance. And there's an interesting thing, though. You might actually be able to see an arbitration section. On some of these forums, they have a very weird sort of people's court or like a strange cybercrime judicial system where you have actors or threat actors and cyber criminals that didn't, I don't know, keep up their end of the job. They tried to dupe someone else, kind of that they were working with, maybe an affiliate, and they didn't pay them, or someone scammed someone else. And that's interesting because you do have genuinely like a reputation system amongst bad actors of like, hey, I trust this individual or I don't trust this individual. And there are some arbiters of moderators and administrators of these forums as to whether or not they'll be banned or not allowed to operate and interact and be registered on this site. The thing is, it's a whole community. There's a whole culture here. So if that word spreads to other forums or websites, hey, they kind of get blacklisted because, hey, this is not an actor, bad actor that we really want to keep working with because they aren't keeping up their end of the bargain. They're deceiving and scamming others, and they're hurting their cybercrime business. Really weird, really wild. But it is kind of crazy to see some like people's court and like a sort of code of conduct in a cybercrime scenario. There is a certain sportsmanship amongst these and the individuals. Kind of wild. Let's keep going though. A little bit more of the buying and selling sections. You can see those kind of drilled down into maybe it's databases, maybe it's different access for file transfer applications. And I'm dragging us through these though, and I'll be honest, these are old screenshots. This is from some time ago, but there always are stats for, hey, how many registered users are on this forum or this website. So we're looking at exploit.in as one case study here, one of these examples we've got up on screen. And you can see how many users are active right now with their usernames, maybe some vulgar and profane, forgive me, but maybe some, you can see the statistics, how many members are registered. Almost 70,000 or so. This is an old screenshot, bear in mind. And you can see the number of posts and the number of topics, almost 1.5 million total posts. So there's a lot of activity here. Wanted to show that to you. Let's keep going through a couple other videos if you're up for it. Maybe we could fall down the rabbit hole on one interesting thing we could see on exploit.in and kind of get an example as to this sort of stuff. Whether it's malware, social engineering, I don't mean to beat a dead horse on this because at the end of the day, the forums really tend to do a lot of the same things. But I think we could drill down into sort of the actor behavior, how they go about their business of cybercrime. It's really kind of strange and interesting because they offer, much like real organizations, real companies and businesses in the real world for ourselves that we do, showcase and provide a free sample or like a free trial. They've got this sales and marketing kind of department. They've got this go-to-market strategy. They've got their persona and their brand that they keep track of across the industry. So let's say we were looking at some of these leaks or these data breach information that they've got out and about. People are looking for combos. That's a combination of username and password. Maybe they're looking for fulls, Fullz. And that's a meaning to represent, the full information on someone. Think of all the PII that you could muster, their address, their date of birth, their email, their anything, etc. Here's one example. A giveaway, even, with some spicy details. And they say, hey, here's a little screenshot or some info of what all entails with 7,000 leads, including their SSN or their social security number. And they shared a link to Telegram, which I don't know if you caught it. Telegram is honestly kind of the social media of cybercrime. Threat actors are always chirping out and about inside of Telegram. And look at the headers. Look at the wild information that could be included in here. And this is an air quote free sample. It's a giveaway. like you see at Costco walking down the aisles, right? So just to see, just to learn, could we download this thing? Is this air quotes real? Say that I opened the thing up just for our validation, verification research, and I've redacted, obviously, very much pixelated this output and dump. And maybe there's a whole lot here. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's not. Again, I can't say for sure, but addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, person's names, person's details, PII. And there's a note here at the bottom. Hey, there's almost 130,000 of these. If you want them, reach out. Hit me up on Telegram, hit me up on Jabber or Wix, and we'll get some escrow payment back and forth. Craziness. That was on exploit.in, but let's look at another. This is breach forums with a alleged USA data with full info, fulls, and SSN and account numbers, bank details, bank router, bank account, blah, blah, blah. And they just slap it out. They share it. Granted, there's a part and piece to this, right? They'll give you that little excerpt, that little tiny breadcrumb. Well, the real price is $500. Okay. I don't know if that's a steal. I don't know if that's a good deal for cyber criminals, but this is the kind of stuff that's out there. Maybe someone will probably latch onto and identify, yeah, we tend to see that anime profile picture quite often. That's normally, I think, the default profile picture for just accounts on breach forums or other websites that kind of look similar. But those are always spooky. So if we were to go take a look at this sample 222222, I don't know really what more to tell you. It's that as free samples. Just to lure you in, just to have a little enticing, ooh, take a look. Hey, this is what you could get. This is what you could purchase. Here's our free trial. Here's our demo of our software product solution. Just like a lot of us do in the good real world. And Anon Files is one of those sites where a lot of times that's been hosted. I believe that's been taken down. I would have to double, triple check. Maybe folks tuning in know off the top of their head. I think Anon Files or the anonymous file upload service has shut down. GoFile is still out and about. You can see a whole lot of these like mega.nz, just simple, quick and easy, slapping the info out, providing files to folks as a free sample. Others selling access. Here's VPN admin access to a USA company or corporation, allegedly, right? We're putting our hands up. We don't know. We haven't validated. I'm not going to pay that. No one's going to buy this. I hope no one tuning in would actually look into this sort of stuff. But they say they access over RDP, remote desktop protocol, and they have DA or domain admin. They have complete control over the enterprise and environment because of their Active Directory, maybe identity provider in the on-premise instance, or global administrator if they're in Azure, Entra ID, who knows. But look at this. They start drilling down to the industry of that victim breach company that they're selling access to, the revenue. And that's an interesting talking point, if I may say, because, yeah, oftentimes when a hacker breaks into your environment, they could probably go track down a lot of the documents, details, information, and paperwork you might have saved, digital paperwork, for things like your cyber insurance policy. A little bit sketchy, a little bit, again, a tough pill to swallow, but you think of bad actors like ransomware gangs, and we'll, again, touch on those soon. They know what you can afford, air quotes. They know the headquarters, and they, of course, list how they're selling it. And we apparently have one sale you could see down here. That one was sold, and MHZ got a good deal with that one. Again, I'll acknowledge, hey, this is some time ago, but this hasn't really slowed down. This sort of stuff doesn't really stop out over on the dark web, or this buying and selling really happens. And we're thinking about how these threat actors make money, and buying and selling this information on the dark web for passwords or credentials or access is one avenue. But you saw, oh, those price tags were like $500, right? What if you had a much faster way to make money? Ransomware. And there are a lot of ransomware operators and gangs. And it's no secret that they tend to publish information from their affected victims if they don't pay the ransom. You know, they encrypt all of the files inside your network and your environment, lock down your computers. So it's basically unusable. And they say, hey, we demand however much Monero, Bitcoin, or you won't be getting your files back. If you don't pay this ransom in however long a time period, a month, a week, I don't know, a couple days, you can go through this negotiation process. But if you don't pay the ransom, we're to publish all of your stuff, all of your confidential proprietary information, customer PII, employee internal data, and that one hurts. But let's take a look at a case study. Maybe we could explore Play Ransomware, who's kind of hit the street some time ago. I'm not positive if they're still active. Someone might need to hold my hand and help me out with a phone a friend if they are still doing damage every now and again. But I thought this would be a neat one to shine a spotlight on because what they do most of the time, usually, is they take advantage of organizations and companies based off of information that's already public on the dark web, like passwords, like credentials, like those tokens, cookies, maybe sessions that they could go find from info stealer malware logs or buy and sell and uncover that. And they don't need to exploit your servers or breach past your firewall or whatever. They just log in. They don't need to break in because, hey, some of this is out there already. And I don't mean to say that as all doom and gloom. Forgive me. I'm not trying to be too glass half empty here, but I do want to be real and understanding what the threats and risks are that are out there. This sort of thing is, again, still really valuable to know and understand so that you have the threat intelligence and the wherewithal of what's really happening. What enables this cybercrime activity? And how has it become so commoditized right now? SZA some time ago had an alert out, and I apologize for our dark mode friends. I know we suddenly switched to a white light mode display, a little bit of a flashbang. Forgive me, but they have done tracking some work on this actor, and they're sharing their TTPs, they're sharing their tactics, techniques, and procedures, so you could identify these threats in your environment. They're looking at their IOCs, their indicators of compromise. Again, good things that we should know, we should be aware of to better protect companies and organizations like this. And I bubbled this up for you all just so you know, hey, this is real. This is what we're seeing and why it's so important that we do have a little bit of visibility and understanding of the dark web, right? So let me keep cruising. What is this? Uh Well, it's the Play ransomware leak site on the dark web. Their .onion domain where they publish their victim info if the victim that they compromised, breached, and hacked into and ransomed did not pay the ransom. I've redacted a lot of the victim names here, right? Just hopefully out of some courtesy. But you could see, hey, here's one listing, here's another entry, here's another record, here's another and another. And there's a little timer, there's a countdown. We wanted to spread the word, let the world know, yeah, we hacked this company and we set the clock on whether or not they pay. If they do pay, okay, we'll take that information down. But you can see we're still waiting. We're in our negotiations as to whether or not we will publish. And there are just a couple days before that info data dump is made available. So if we were to scroll down, you could see a couple that are published, some victim info that's out there. And this is just one example of what a lot of these leak sites look like. Folks might be familiar with Black Cat or Alf V or Clop or Lockbit or Revil back in their day. These are kind of wild. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's scary and it sucks to see this, but it's data at the end of the day, again, that breached credentials or breached passwords or information that other threat actors could be armed with to do more damage. And take a look. This is one of those records. If we were to click in and double click to zoom in to one of those victim blobs and entries here. Oh, maybe 160,000 views of this page some time ago. Here's a 2022 example. Almost 200 gigs of data. You can imagine this goes to terabytes sometimes. Um, and I blocked out the name here, but hey, here's a company that operates in the information technology and services industry. Oh, okay, probably pretty similar to what we're up to. It employs 500 to 1,000 people, and you could see some certain document types in here, like contracts, money that's changed hands, agreements, finance, payroll. And here's a compressed archive. Each of the archives could be used independently. You could track that down. And here's a password to be able to go access that info now that it's been published. Download link, of course, redacted, again on their .onion site. That is a tough pill to swallow, but that's what's out there. And this Play ransomware gang, the name, right, being Play, cutesy on that front, has some FAQ or contact page or news for their leaks. But the FAQs are always sort of fascinating to read through, even if just for a human perspective. Because normally you think of like Ragnar Locker or you think of other ransomware gangs that are so nonchalant about their illegal, illicit crimes. They say, hey, you know what? You guys got a pen test. You as a victim, you as a company, hey, you didn't pay. If you didn't have to pay for the pen test, we were able to do a security audit for you. But here's the kicker. You pay us now after we're holding all of your data for ransom. And it's like a how-to guide for how to recover, how to repair. Hey, how do I get my organization back to normal? And that means going through negotiation. And there are a lot of wild chats, and you can see really the communication back and forth from leaked adversary infrastructure or ransomware gangs when they go through the back and forth with the company. Some wild stories. And again, I think I have a couple videos over on YouTube where you could see real communications, real text chat where a victim and a ransomware operator are chatting back and forth as to how do we get out of this predicament? How do we haggle the price? Or whether, look, no, we're not going to pay this. It's insane. A lot of things of how can I trust you? What happens if we don't pay? Again, you're dealing with cyber criminals. Are they really going to give you the decryptor after that fact? Blah, blah, blah. You might have caught it, though, at the beginning of the early slide here. There's an interesting component. Hey, Play Ransomware has never provided and does not provide the RAS. Now, I'm making light of it because I think that's a really funny, silly way to say it out loud, the RAS. But that acronym, I'm sure you've seen, much like we hear SaaS or SaaS, software as a service. We've gotten so many acronyms now as this has become some commoditized enterprise for ransomware as a service or malware as a service, or how these threats are unfortunately too easy right now. Play Ransomware says, hey, we don't do that. We don't work with the affiliate model. We don't give you these plug and play encryptors or infrastructure and tooling to be able to do this. Other teams do, other gangs do, but that is how it has all changed. That has the state of the industry now as to what we're up against, and that it is not just some kid in a basement. It's not someone with a little hacker hoodie on, not with a projector pointed at their screen, you know, like a Hollywood movie. It's organized cybercrime. It's real threats that turn this into a business. And I think it's something that we got to take seriously, and we have to kind of shine a spotlight on the dark web just to know and understand and see what they're doing, what they're up to, and ultimately where they're going to go next. Are they targeting your industry? Are they targeting your sector? Are they taking advantage of some different tooling, exploits, vulnerabilities, or are they just handing out credentials and cookies like hotcakes? All stuff that we should be tracking. And I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. I do want to have some time for questions with you all. I'll do my best. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, we did okay on our little jolly jaunt safari ride of cybercrime and a guided tour of the dark web. But let me say, um, we've only scratched the surface. I know we, oh, sure, got to explore and kind of drive all over the map, but my goodness, there is so much more of the history, the culture, those different communities, those forums and marketplaces, data breaches, fraud, tooling that they hand out. And this list goes on and on and on. You can see a couple here. But I am, again, very, very grateful for you all letting me kind of wear my JHT or just hacking training hat, because I wanted the brunt of this, the real meat and substance here, to be real value and education for you. But if I may kind of take that further, we've done some really cool stuff that I'm really, really proud of over at Just Hacking Training. Because look, if you wanted to learn more, if you wanted to explore and understand more of the dark web, we have kind of two specific trainings on that for investigating a lot of cybercrime and then even treating it as cyber threat intelligence, being able to research and build out threat actor profiles and perform investigations and map and understand their infrastructure. And that's been really cool. That's been a great success, and I really appreciate all your support. So if you're curious more about dark web stuff, I would love if you're willing to take a look at Just Hacking Training. But if dark web isn't your fancy, if you're super curious about AI, if you're super curious about red teaming, penetration testing, malware analysis, blue teaming, defense, security operations center stuff, I got to be honest, I'm really proud of the fact that, hey, we've made something really, really cool with Just Hacking Training to make practical, hands-on, application-based learning from not just me, but tons of incredible people in the industry. And it it feels good. It feels like a good mission. It feels very fulfilling to be able to help grow and spread and share more education and awareness. And I hope you take a look. But thank you for letting me wear the Just Hacking Training hat today. I hope you go take a look at justhacking.com. Hey, if it wasn't exactly that, though, if you did want to get to more pertinent things of the dark web for freebies, you can see a lot of that info out and online. There are some GitHub repositories that track a lot of these things. Deep Dark CTI from Fastfire, ransomware.live includes some of those chats and notifications or negotiations. And then there's news from the Daily Dark Web or the Dark Web Informer. Those, I think, lean a little bit more towards the cybercrime, TMZ, high school drama, bickering and bantering that threat actors do across up and down forums and marketplaces. But other resources and references for you if you're interested and just wanted to explore, wanted to go see more on the clear net and not, oh, braving the elements to go download Tor and go find your way through the dark web. But I think it's super important to shine a light on the thing, to know that it exists, to know what exists out there, and to talk about it, to demystify it, to see and identify what all that really is for the sake of our education awareness and making our own cybersecurity programs better because of it with some actionable intel. With that, I think I'm done rambling, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for letting me hang out with you. I know we got just a little bit of time until the top of the hour, so I'll do my darndest to go take a look at the QA. But how do we do? Feeling good? Was that okay? Was that all right? I should have, said up front after the cheesy credibility and introduction slide, hey, I still always get a little bit nervous for presentations and talks like this. I still get my imposter syndrome. And I know we all do. So I'm not an expert. It's weird and it's wild when we see that in, I don't know, headlines or TVs or news reports or webinar stuff. But in all reality, none of us are experts in cybersecurity. I don't think you can be an expert in cybersecurity because there's just too much that's out there. Our field is too vast, it's too wide, it's too big. So I'm learning too, just alongside all of you. And I hope, I'm crossing my fingers, hey, we had some fun and you still got a little bit of eye-opening exercise and experience in our tour of the dark web. All right, let me look at the questions here with you. Erica Osborne, thank you so much. She asks, hey, do you advise using a virtual machine when searching the dark web for research purposes? Just looking to protect my system. Yes, absolutely. 1,000%, 100, hands down. Always do really recommend a virtual machine. You really, there are layers of the attack surface, right? Because the web browser, Tor browser itself, is just you seeing what's out on the internet, the dark web. But if you're downloading files, if you're trying to understand what the heck is this tooling that someone is sharing, what is this little exploit kit or framework that they've just kind of shared and shot out, totally get yourself a virtual machine. Make sure you're operating within that. If you're using browsers like Tor or any others, I think Brave even allows you to use some Tor connectivity. Um, Make sure JavaScript is disabled or like client side code execution, so that wouldn't hit you. Nothing could pop or fire up or run or execute code, even just in the browser. You do want to add defense in depth or layer as many security layers as you can so you are keeping yourself protected. Thank you so much. Ooh, Andrew Wayne says, what skills should an instructor's focus on when designing and developing curriculum in cybersecurity? Thank you so much. Super good question. And I totally acknowledge the fact, hey, this is super variable, super dynamic for your environment. But I've been a real big proponent of show and tell, and show, not just tell. Like, even with the silly stuff we did in the presentation, I wanted you to see what this looks like. I wanted to give you the pictures, the visuals, and then the real best learning is getting hands-on, being application-based, being practical. So wherever you can make it a game, whenever you can make it fun, whenever you can make it something that has a little bit of camaraderie, some teamwork, some scoreboard or leaderboard, like a capture the flag environment or exercise, maybe I'm maybe it's just me, but I love that stuff. I think a lot of students really enjoy when, hey, they can see it for real and play with it. Make it fun. What skills, forgive me, are there any legal complications a script kiddie or newbie browsing through dark web might face? No. Eh, Let me put an asterisk on that, right? In finding and uncovering your risk model, your own personal threat assessment and threat profile is totally up to you. Um, I think if you're putting all the protections in place, like the virtual machine, like disabling JavaScript, et cetera, your own OPSEC, your own safety, those are important. But just going to the dark web or browsing the dark web is not illegal. Maybe there's some, I don't know, misnomers on that. It's still the internet. If I could boil it down and break it down, it's the same thing that we're all used to. But I don't think you're going to be seeing too many legal repercussions unless you're doing, obviously, yes, anything that crosses the line and clearly is Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. You guys know. You got your good moral compass and ethical directions, I'm sure yourself. Thank you so much for the presentation, John. I appreciate it. Thank you. What's the most sophisticated social engineering tactic you've seen that has almost nothing to do with technical hacking? Let me speed run through this because I know we're cruising on time. We had a really wild incident some time ago. It's a story I love to tell that was APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. This is DPRK. I don't think there's any secret on that. Threat actor group known as Kimsuki. And they were doing super duper targeted individual, actual authority, person, head honcho of an organization, of an agency. We can extrapolate to whatever 3-letter acronym thing we might get in our mind. But they got their initial access with a social engineering trick that was a phishing email, but not in the way that you normally think. Like normally you think, oh, hey, someone just landed some attachment or some fake voicemail or some, access this file in Dropbox or DocuSign phishing email. No, they kind of put it on its head and really made the lie and lure and pretense of them being a journalist, an investigative reporter, writing a story about something pertinent that this individual, the victim, would have the knowledge and insight on. So there was a back and forth of, hey, I'm writing the story. I have a couple questions for you. Would you be willing to answer these? And they go through this back and forth. The individual is totally duped because it wasn't an immediate red flag. They're thinking, oh, regular PR, regular media news reporting. They answer their questions, and the threat actor now says, hey, these questions and answers are great. I've made a couple fine tuning tweaks just before we send it to publish. Would you be willing to review these just to make sure that they are in your words and exactly the quotes that you'd like to have included when we publish and run the story? Who's not gonna do that? You got to protect your name. You got to do the PR due diligence here. And they threat actor sweetens the deal and says, hey, for security reasons, these are encrypted in this archive, password protected attached. Password protected archive, antivirus can't scan it. It's encrypted. They download it, they open up the thing in Microsoft Word. Macros are still a thing during this timeline. This is a couple of years back, right? This is around the timeline where Microsoft Office macros will still fire. But it was a super simple, stupid, dumb, like, oh, please enable editing and enable content to be able to view this document because it's not compatible with your version of Microsoft Word. The most obvious, security 101 training that we get for phishing and security awareness, but there was so much buildup. There was so much back and forth. There was genuine trust built in the relationship between this reporter and the story that they're writing. So all of that lie, all of that, back and forth building meant that, hey, yeah, we got to help out the reporters and get the answers for the story written about because I want that placement. Silly thing, but that one was a clever one that I really liked. Wow, they flipped the script, not just having a one-shot land in your inbox, here's malware, but a back and forth, kind of stringing you along to be the victim. As individuals and companies, what should we do when we find out our personal information was included in a data breach? Thank you so much. Oh, appreciate the question. Super hard to answer because you kind of have to know what is your attack surface. And when we boil it down to use a password manager, make sure you have a unique, complex, long, secure password for every single site and service that you access. So that way, hey, yeah, maybe your MyFitnessPal password was compromised. That's not going to have any further damage because it was unique to MyFitnessPal. They're not going to be able to get into your Netflix, your Amazon, your Google grocery bank account with that, right? You're not sharing a password across. I use a password manager. I don't know any of my passwords. You could hold me at gunpoint, demand me tell you what my password is, and I couldn't tell you. Password managers are absolutely what you could do to keep that at bay. Two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, that's the defense in depth that you've all heard. We keep beating the drum for because it's the right answer. But keep an eye out for that so that when, sure, we see the data breach of company XYZ, service ABC, you can go rotate that password for that site and only that. And if your multi-factor authentication was in place, you still got an extra layer of security keeping you protected. So it's all the security hygiene that you've heard all of us screaming and shouting about before. Ooh, there are services which help you keep your data private online. Does that help protect against cybercrime? Thank you so much for the question. Yeah. Your mileage may vary. I can't say with certainty that, it will be definitively good, bad, or ugly, whether it is effective or not. But I got to be honest, I think that's still a good initiative. I think that's still a good direction. Anything's better than nothing. So yeah, having something that can help scrub, remove your information from data brokers or for other information that's out and available online, it's good to try and clean that up the best you can. Why not? What's the best practice for organizations who have experienced ransomware? Is it advisable to pay? Or won't that encourage more ransomware, air quote, business? Super good question. And you're totally right. And I'll speed run through this because I know we're at the top of the hour just about. But you got the nail on the head here. Don't pay if you can. My goodness gracious. I know it's easy to kind of press the easy button, try to get everything back in action, but you are emboldening more cybercrime. You are just encouraging and making them, hey, someone that's over the now maybe a repeat offender. They'll hack you again. They'll breach you a second time because they know you'll pay. So do your best to have a breach coach. Do you have your disaster recovery, your business continuity plan? Make sure you have really the documentation and checklist and process for how to be able to respond, roll from backups, test those backups, and make sure that you can be as resilient as you can be. It's a hard problem to solve, I'll be the first to admit, but I think that's something that we have to answer the call for. Like, that is the call. That's the charge for cybersecurity, and everything that we do is it's call to action. I think cybersecurity and our safety is something that we have to earn every day. So with that, I think we are over the line, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me hang out with you. This was a real treat. I hope you had some fun. And look, I know we got a ton more questions. There's like 34 of these that I still should answer. But if you'd like to chat more, please don't hesitate to hit me up online. Reach out. Please don't be a stranger. You can find me on YouTube, on LinkedIn. You'll see my silly, stupid red hair, and my ugly mug out and on the internet. But don't be a stranger. Would love to chat further. Thank you so much, everyone. Head to justhacking.com. Thank you. Thank you.